Ladies and gentlemen, these days on our business pages, we often read about trade with China. We see the statistics, the numbers. In fact, it's not just on the business pages, it's on the front pages. And everyone concentrates on the importance of trade in China. What you don't hear about, and rarely can find out about, is another trade. And it's a trade that's horrific in nature. It's a trade in human organs and body parts, victimizing some of the most vulnerable in a totalitarian regime. Prisoners who've been sent into a penal system strictly because of their faith practices. And it's hidden away in some of the darkest corners of the penal system within China. What our two Davids, David Kilgour, David Mattis, have done, they've shone a light into those very dark corners of the penal system and into the darkness, the dark heart of a system that few have dared to venture into. It's a very difficult read, but it's something that we feel compelled to inform ourselves about. Every one of us as a consumer benefits from trade, and these days from trade with China. The fact that they're not directly connected doesn't exonerate us from addressing this particular issue. There's a tremendous opportunity right now because there will be a series of leaders meeting with the Chinese leadership in a very short span of time. So it'd be, you would assume and you think it's incumbent upon the leaders of the Western democracies, when they have these meetings, and they're critically important meetings, that these issues would be raised. And then the question is, how are they raised? Part of the importance of this work is that it's, as I said before, is shining a light. And it needs to be pointed out that as a major trading power, knowing what I know, when I pick up a product and I see that Made in China label, there's an unease. You can't keep these things hidden. Sooner or later, the lid's going to come off. And decent people everywhere, when they pick up those consumer products and they see that label, they'll have that same sort of unease. It'll affect China in millions of ways that perhaps aren't quantifiable. And that's part of the importance of this, and that needs to be pointed out to them. And then there's the second aspect: how can you trust a country that would engage in this sort of horrific crime against their own people? How could you trust them in your relationships when they acquire major resource companies? You know, as Canadians, we love to see Canadian companies continue as major players in Canada and elsewhere. But at times, other companies buy up Canadian companies, buy up Canadian resources. It's the nature of trade. But there's a big question mark when it's China that looks to acquire these resources that they will need in the 21st century if they're going to continue growing. So it needs to be explained within that context, because we'd love to do more trade. We'd love to have a healthier relationship. And China has an incredible role to play in the 21st century. But when these issues are outstanding, it calls all of those potential relationships into question. And that's why I'd like to thank the two Davids for the work they've done. They've done the work of angels by shining a light on this, and I'm sure one day people will note the two of them as among the righteous for the work that they've done on this particular file. Thank you.